Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm a jaded storyteller and I'm going to go through the famous Chinese novel Journey to the West with you guys. Today we'll continue from where we left off in the last episode, where Wukong messed up the underworld and left. Just like I said in the previous episode, as the highest ruling agency of the world, the Celestial Court will surely take actions against Wukong, which is what we'll be looking at today, the Celestial Court's reaction. And it was rather complicated. Well, without further ado, let's begin. As you can imagine, he fucked up big this time. His victims, the Long King and the Yama, reported this to the Jade Emperor. The Emperor was angry. He was going to send troops to bring him back for punishment. But this guy, the Tai Bai Gold Star, suggested differently. He said, "Your Majesty, all sentient beings have the right to become immortals, and the monkey have mastered the methods of immortality. It's no different from humans. Why not just give him a position in the court so that we can put him well under our control, as well as showing the mercy of your Majesty?" The Jade Emperor approved it, and he sent Tai Bai to recruit Sun Wukong. Naturally, the offer was attractive to Wukong, and he left with Tai Bai to the Celestial Palace. He presented himself before the Jade Emperor. Then the Jade Emperor entitled him as Bima Wen, the keeper of the royal stable. It was going well at the beginning. He was happy about being a celestial god, until he found out that Bima Wen was actually a very minor position, and the other gods just disrespected him. He was pissed and just stormed out of the Celestial Court. When he returned to the mountain, his monkeys were like, "My king, the Celestial Court doesn't respect you. Screw them. With your mighty powers, you might just as well be the great sage equal to heaven." And he got excited. He was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm gonna be, the great sage equal to heaven." And they even made a banner for it. Of course, he wasn't gonna get away with it. The Jade Emperor decided to send troops to grab him, and he put Li Jing, the Pagoda Heavenly King, to be in charge of the arrest. Long story short, Li Jing's vanguard, Julin Shen, the giant spirit god, this big dude in the middle, couldn't even last 3 rounds against Wukong. And then Li Jing's third son, Naja. Yes, the movie Naja that everyone's talking about. That's him, Naja. I've talked about him in my previous video, so if you're interested in that, please go check it out. And don't worry, there's no spoiler of the movies. It was just an intro about who Naja is. So please do go check it out, guys. Anyway, Naja couldn't match Wukong's powers either, so he retreated. After the first defeat, our good friend, Tai Bai Gold Star, consulted the Emperor again. He said, "Your Majesty, this monkey is too powerful. How about we just give him the empty title of Great Sage equal to heaven like he wanted? And of course, with no actual authority or salary, just a title, so that we don't have to shed any more blood to put him under control." Again, Tai Bai was assigned for this job, to convince Wukong to make peace and join the Celestial Court again, as the Great Sage equal to heaven this time. And Wukong agreed. The Jade Emperor kept his words, and he even ordered to build a house for him, the House of the Great Sage. So, it really was a win-win situation. Wukong got the respect that he wanted, and the court got to keep its prestige. But as I mentioned before, he didn't really have the actual authority, which means that he had nothing to do in the court. So, he was just poking here and there, drinking, making new friends, and basically just messing around. Very soon, the Jade Emperor realized that it wasn't a good thing. If he kept messing around, sooner or later he's gonna cause more troubles. And the Jade Emperor made the best decision he's ever made. He decided to put Sun Wukong to be in charge of the Royal Peach Garden. Yes, he put a monkey to be in charge of a peach garden. What a genius. And of course, you just know that this wouldn't end up pretty. The peaches weren't just regular peaches. They were planted by the Queen Mother, and they were one of the finest treasures of the world. They take millenniums to mature, which made them extremely powerful. And just one peach of the best quality was able to grant a normal human immortality, saving thousands of years of practice. And also, in Chinese culture, peaches often represent long age. And that's why, in the images of the famous god of longevity, often had a peach in his hand. As you can imagine, Wukong just went crazy in the peach garden. He was like, "Yeah, them big booty peaches." And it just happened to be the time that the Queen Mother was hosting her peach ceremony, and she sent her 7 beautiful fairies to come and harvest the peaches. Fortunately, Wukong didn't eat them all. He just ate the big ones, so he didn't get in trouble yet. He got angry because the fairies told him that he wasn't invited to the peach ceremony, which all the important gods, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas were invited, and he wasn't on the list. Long story short, he sneaked into the ceremony before it started and was eating everything from the table. The celestial wine and the celestial fruits. Very good stuff. The gods take them at the ceremony. And very soon he got drunk. and got drunk in style, I may add. His steps looked pretty cool, doesn't it? What's more, he even packed the food and drinks and was gonna bring them back to his monkeys, because he realized that he fucked up big time. Might as well just take what he can and flee. But being drunk, he was lost and ended up at the doorstep of Doushuai Palace, the palace of the Supreme Lord Lao, one of the three Qing Supreme Gods in Taoism. In the novel, he was most famous for his master skills of lian dan, elixir refining. And Wukong was gonna go in and say hi to him because he never greeted him after he came to the Celestial Court. Bad timing, Wukong. That old man is too busy attending to the peach ceremony that you weren't invited to. The gods arrived at the ceremony and they saw the mess. Lord Lao was like, oh shit, my elixirs. Don't worry, sir. Your elixirs are in good hands. Yeah, Wukong basically ate them all. As you can imagine, he got himself in deep shit. And there was no talking out of this one. The Jade Emperor was furious, and he decided to send 100,000 soldiers to go after him. And the siege began. The minions against minions and the bosses against the bosses. And the four heavenly kings, who were in charge of the security of the four celestial gates, north, south, west, and east. Even though they looked all tough and glorious, they were defeated by Wukong pretty fast. And their fight was barely mentioned in the novel. So basically they were just tough-looking noobs, and they fled. So it was quite awkward for the Celestial Court. Even though they surrounded the Mount Huaguo, there was no god that could match Wukong's power. Therefore the monkeys in Mount Huaguo were untouched. The Jade Emperor asked, which one of you can go subdue that monkey? And no one dared to respond. Fortunately, Bodhisattva Guanyin, a very important character in Buddhism, came to visit. She knew about the court's trouble, and she recommended a god to go fight Wukong, Erlang, the secret divinity. More widely known as the Erlang Shen, he's also one of the most popular characters in Chinese mythology. And we'll talk about why in the future episodes, because his story is also very long. In a word, he was the best fighter of the Celestial Court. The only one god that could match Wukong's power without using vessels. They fought for more than 300 rounds and were still equal. Then Erlang went into phase 2, Fa Tian Xiang Di, the Titanic aspect. If you have played the game Black Myth Wukong, you'll know what I mean. Yep, this gigantic form that we saw from the game. It was called Fa Tian Xiang Di. Some of you thought this was his true form, but no, it was a spell. It was more like a transformation that could enhance their powers. A very powerful spell that both Wukong and Erlang mastered. And their battle was epic. By the way, Erlang Shen was most famous for his third eye, the celestial eye that could see through all disguises, and his dog, Xiao Tian. And I want to show you this next part because the music was sick. That song was pretty cool, wasn't it? And notice it was written in 1986, about 40 years ago, which makes it even cooler. And in the novel, there was a phase 3, which Wukong was surrounded by Erlang Shen and his brothers, the 6 brothers of Mei Mountain. So really Wukong was going 1v7 and wasn't even losing. And then sneaky old man, the Supreme Lord Lao, offered to sneak attack Wukong. He tossed his vessel, the Jinggang bracelet, and it hit Wukong right in the head, and Wukong was captured because of that. And here comes the Jade Emperor's genius decision again. He asked the Bodhisattva Guanyin, who was known for her mercy and compassion, to stay and watch the execution when they behead Sun Wukong later. And of course, Guanyin was like, really bro? Bye. After eating all the elixirs from Lord Lao, Wukong's body became very powerful and it was completely unbreakable. So the execution wasn't going well, they couldn't behead him. And the celestial thunder and fire couldn't harm him either. As a concerned citizen, Supreme Lord Lao offered to help. He said, Your Majesty, the monkey ate all my elixirs. And the power of the pills were inside of his body. That made him unbreakable. Let me put him in my furnace and burn him with my samadhi fire, the purest fire in the world, to melt down the power of the elixirs and extract it, so that we can kill him. So, Wukong ended up in Supreme Lord Lao's furnace of elixir refinement and was burned by the samadhi fire for 49 straight days. And not only he was unharmed, the only damage he got was the eye sickness caused by the smoke, which later became his golden fiery gaze that grants him the ability to see through all disguises. So, there have been some theories that Supreme Lord Lao had his own schemes by putting Wukong in his furnace, because not only it didn't harm Wukong, it made Wukong much more powerful. It made the power of the elixirs merged perfectly in Wukong's body, as well as giving him the golden fiery gaze. And as a grandmaster of elixir refinement, it would be absurd if he didn't know this was going to happen. And also, Wukong broke out of his furnace, which we can learn from the future chapters of the novel that it would be impossible without his permission, because Wukong's body is unbreakable, but he's really terrible at dealing with powerful vessels, especially those that can trap him. So, even though it wasn't written in a novel, it was debatable that Supreme Lord Lao had his own schemes regarding the Celestial Court. Because the first thing Wukong did after breaking out the furnace was to strike the Celestial Palace. And being more powerful than before, there was no one that could stop Wukong this time. As he made his way to the Jade Emperor right in the face, the Jade Emperor was like, "Call the Buddha now!" And here comes the Buddha, the supreme leader of Mount Lingshan Buddhism. He confronted Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong was like, "The emperors take turns, and now it's my turn. Tell the Jade Emperor to step away from the throne and get this over with." The Buddha told him that the Jade Emperor had endured 1,750 trials. Each trial took 129,600 years before he finally became the Jade Emperor. Yep, that is pretty damn long. I mean, just do the math, man. That's a lot of years. Anyway, eventually the Buddha made a bet with Wukong. If Wukong was able to escape from his paw, he would ask the Jade Emperor to step away, and Wukong could be the new Jade Emperor. And if he loses, he'll be punished for what he's done. And Wukong was like, "This old man must be retarded. I could go 54,000 kilometers within a somersault. The bet is just too easy." So he jumped into Buddha's hand and flew away. Then he saw 5 giant pillars, and he thought this was the end of the sky. He was like, "GG, easy. Let me leave a mark in case that old dude doesn't admit his failure." And he wrote down, "The great sage was here, on the biggest pillar." And he even took a piss by the pillar before he returned. As you can guess, he never got off Buddha's hand. He returned and saw the mark he left and could even smell the piss. But he didn't believe it. He was like, "I don't believe you, you must have cheated. Let me go check again." But the Buddha flipped his hand and it became a giant mountain with the shape of 5 fingers, which is why it was also called the 5-finger mountain, trapping Wukong under. Of course, he tried to break out of it. The Buddha was like, "Don't worry, I got this. Here, take this talisman and put it on the top of the mountain," which made the seal completely unbreakable. And there was no way Wukong could break out of it as he began to serve his time. And that imprisonment was 500 years. A good day for the Jade Emperor and a bad day for the poor little monkey. As Sun Wukong began to serve his time, that concludes our episode today. So how did Wukong get off the 5-finger mountain? Who set him free? And most importantly, what is this journey to the west? 欲知后事如何，且听下回分解。